Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody from Wealthy Wednesdays. I'm joined by my gorgeous wealthy lady friend, Miss Tiffany Brennan. Hello.
Hello everyone.
And tonight we want to talk about conclusionistas. So are you a conclusionista? Are you a conclusionista, Tiff?
No, sometimes.
No, I'm not either.
A little bit, often, occasionally. I'm trying not to be. And what would it take for that to be a no? Not ever.
Do you know what I was laughing about? Because often when Tiff and I get together to do a Wealthy Wednesday, one of us, something will just pop in our world and we'll just, hey, what about this? Or what about this? And this whole being a conclusionista, it's like, I had a laugh because this whole thing about, as women, are we always right? Hello, do I even need to ask?
Oh dear.
So, how much do we actually already function from this place of, well, I'm right. And I remember Gary also talking about, well, if you're a woman, then you're arrogant. And I'm like, I am not.
No arrogance in that right there.
No conclusion and no question. And I said, what do you mean by that, Gary? And he goes, well, are you arrogant? And he said, first of all, are you making arrogant wrong? And I went, well, yes, because I was defending. And he said, so what is arrogant? And anyway, we had a conversation. And basically, I asked him, I said, well, what is arrogant? And he said, never being willing to give up on your point of view, what you know is true for you. So, as a woman, if we're already functioning from this point of view, well, I'm right and men wrong, what space does that create for receiving? What space does that create for possibilities? What space does that create for contribution? If you're, we're around men, they make up half of the planet. So if we're already subconsciously or even knowingly concluding that we're right and they're wrong, where do we even go with that?
Yeah, I think there's sort of a lot that there's so many pieces to, even just the short few sentences that you've said so far. But what I want to ask is, like, what is conclusion? What is a conclusionista? Like, what do you know about that?
Yeah, so for me, it's like I've heard Gary say this so many times in classes, because it's when we jump to conclusion, it's when we assume there is no question. It's like we're in this automatic reaction, the reflexive reality of whatever's up, whatever conversation is going on, whatever situation is occurring around you. We jump to this conclusion. There's no question. There is just this need to be right and to defend a point of view that we don't even realize we're doing it a lot of the time. And, with money, how many conclusions do we have around money about what it is, what it isn't, whether we're a success, whether we're a failure, why I don't have it, why doesn't it work for me? It's just when we have that conclusion that, oh God, I'm useless with money, or my parents told me I never could save money, or I would waste money, or you just spend more than you earn, or, all of that stuff. It's like none of those create the space for you to be the questioner. So we function from conclusions, and that conclusionista is where we identify, even unknowingly, without questioning, that we are already functioning as a conclusion.
Yeah. So for all of you guys watching, it's like, how many conclusions do you personally have about money? And how many conclusions do you personally have about you with regard to money? Yeah. So let's destroy and uncreate all of those. And what if you were willing to recognize when you're coming to a conclusion and instead choose to ask a question that could open a door to a different possibility, then what else could be available? So you kind of have a choice. You have the choice to come to conclusion, which, because we are on Wealthy Wednesdays right now. Let's talk about, money, which is part of wealth. It's not all of what wealth is, like we've spoken about on a lot of our other Wealthy Wednesday sessions. But, if you come to the conclusion, for example, that you know, you are bad with money, right? You go, I am bad with money, or I don't understand money. If you notice yourself going to one of these places, go, okay, conclusion? Is that a conclusion? Yeah. So what question can I ask here that will open the door to something different being possible and available for me?
Yeah, and the other thing too, it's like, would you rather be right or would you rather be free? So what you were just saying then, Tiff, it's like when you go to the question, there's a level of vulnerability and a level of presence that you're being for you, to free you from any fixedness, from any defending, from any need to be right. Because the thing is, if you have a conclusion, nothing else can show up except that conclusion, because it becomes such a fixed point of view in your world. And when you lavish that with rightness and defense, it's like, well, what other possibilities could ever show up? So there is a level of kindness that you can be to you and your body and your financial reality and your life, if you're willing to have that vulnerability that Tiff's just tapping into then.
Yeah, and like you were just touching on as well, Viv, the thing is with a conclusion, and it's the same with anything like that's similar, but they're all different, like a judgment or a decision or something like that. Any time you come to a conclusion, not only do you stop yourself from receiving anything that doesn't fit that conclusion or that judgment or that decision or whatever it is, but we also do this very cute thing where we then, because you make this conclusion, right? And then that stops you from actually perceiving or receiving anything that doesn't match that conclusion. So we make these conclusions and then we go around the world and we find evidence that confirms that our conclusion is actually right and correct and the only possibility, you know? So it's not until we start to look at these places of what conclusions, this is another great thing that you can play with, what conclusions do I have around money? And start to ask that question and start to allow those things to show up for you. So then you can go, oh, okay, you know, using the Access Consciousness tools, which, you know, we in the Ladies Lounge, you know, Viv and I are both Access Consciousness certified facilitators, and we have been using these tools in our lives for around 20 years now. And really it's about unpacking those things and creating something different. So if you notice that you're going to conclusion, you ask for what those conclusions are, they start to show up, and then you can go, oh, okay, destroy and uncreate that. Now what question can I ask here to create something different?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the question, because just as you were saying, Tiff, it's like the more we walk around and we gather evidence, the more solidified, the more concrete that point of view becomes. So, of course,
well, it becomes real. It becomes your reality.
Yeah, and you're projecting it out all the time. And so, of course, then that evidence comes back to you, because that's how powerful we are. We're that potent. You know, the most potent thing you have is your point of view. Because whatever that is, you will create it either way. So the gift of being the question and acknowledging, oh, I'm being a conclusionista here. Is this actually creating what I truly desire to have or be? No. Okay. Everything this is, I destroy and uncreate it all.
Yeah.
And just being that kindness and that allowance with yourself when you do catch yourself reiterating or buying or perpetrating those fixed points of view on you and your reality, because, you know, this is an adventure. This is, like you're saying, an unpacking of points of view that we've garnered and gathered and, you know, accumulated over our lifetimes that they aren't even ours. This is the thing that just blows me away more and more. It's like, is that actually my point of view? I'm like, actually, no, it's not my point of view, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's the other thing, isn't it? Like, you know, how many of these conclusions, decisions, judgments, points of view that we have were never actually ours in the first place, but we live our lives from these as though there's nothing else possible. And that does not need to be your reality.
So what if you would be willing to be the possibilitarian rather than the conclusionista?
Nice. I'm gonna edit the title of this now that we actually know what we're talking about. So
Conclusionista or possibilitarian?
possibilitarian. I like it. So we've got a couple of people saying hi as well. Ruth Bartley.
Hey,
I don't know if
Ruth.
that's how I pronounce her surname, but we know Ruth. Ibtihal, we know Ibtihal, hello, and a Facebook user. Sorry, I don't know who you are. Oh, it's Alyssa from Perth, WA. She says, awesome
Hello.
conversation.
Elisa.
Yeah, so thank you guys for being here with us. And, you know, what possibilitarian could you be to create a life that you actually enjoy living and every day gets greater and greater?
Everything that doesn't allow that to show up, will you destroy and uncreate it all?
Times a
Times a
godzillion.
godzillion.
Right and
wrong,
wrong.
good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povats, beyonds. Maybe that one does need a double barrel, Tiff.
Double, yeah, of course. And we've got Ali B as well. Hi, Ali. Cool.
So,
all right, Viv.
Next week, we're going to have our very last Wealthy Wednesdays hot seat, the money hot seat. And then we're going to be announcing something very exciting next week. So come and join us. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
How does
for
it get
joining
better?
us, everybody. Thanks, Tiffy. Bye.
Bye.